Human man gave a cold syrup to the alien dragon during a heavy storm. Then days later it beginning. The storm came down hard on the frontier colony of Dunewater, a ragged settlement clinging to the edge of a canyon where the planet's upper winds howled like banshees. Few humans dared settle here. Too harsh, too unpredictable. But Elias Carver had never been the kind of man to take the easy road. A former cargo pilot, now widower. He wanted nothing more than solitude and the distraction of fixing up his weather-beaten homestead. That night, the store was unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Lightning forked across the bruised sky, and sheets of icy rain hammered the roof. His generator flickered under the strain, and he muttered curses as he checked the seals on the windows. Then he heard it. Something different from the wind. A deep rattling cough, followed by a pained wail that vibrated through his bones. He grabbed his light rifle and went outside, trudging through the mud until he saw it. A figure curled near the canyon wall, wings hunched against the downpour. At first he thought it was a malfunctioning piece of colonial machinery, but then it shifted and opened an enormous golden eye. It was a dragon, not the fire-breathing myth of Earth's legends, but a living alien species known from the farthest rim worlds. Few humans had ever seen them up close. They were rare, aloof, and fiercely territorial. And this one was sick. Its scales glistened dull. Its breathing was ragged, and with each cough a spatter of thick mucus hit the mud. Elias's instinct screamed at him to retreat. Dragons could slice a man in half with a single swipe, but something in those eyes stopped him. The creature was suffering. Hell, Elias muttered, you sound like me when I had that orbital flu. He knew he couldn't leave it to die in the storm. Against all logic, he fetched a tarp, coaxed the beast toward his barn with calm, steady movements, and got inside. The dragon barely resisted. Exhaustion had made it pliant. Its massive body curled among hay bales like some bizarre starship wreck. Inside the farmhouse, Elias rummaged through his old survival kits. He found a bottle of cold syrup, a thick, amber liquid designed for human respiratory infections. He stared at it, then at the dragon wheezing in his barn. This is either the dumbest thing I've ever done, he said, filling a large pan, or the smartest. With slow, cautious steps, he offered it. The dragon sniffed, rumbled low in its throat, then surprisingly licked up the syrup. Elias nearly laughed at the absurdity. Guess we'll see if Terra medicine works on rim dragons. Middle. The storm lasted 2 full days. Elias kept checking on the dragon, bringing water and whatever supplies he could spare. At times he talked to it, as though words might help. You remind me of my old freighter, big and stubborn, always coughing and sputtering until she finally ran smooth. The dragon seemed to listen. Once, when he sat too close, it lowered its head, letting him touch the scales just behind its jaw. They were warm, faintly vibrating with a strange energy. By the 3rd morning, the storm cleared. The dragon rose shakily, stretched its wings, and let out a sound between a sigh and a roar. Its color had brightened, eyes gleaming once more. Elias grinned despite himself. Well, damn. Looks like you pulled through. He thought that would be the end of it. Surely the beast would fly off, return to whatever wild domain it came from. But instead, it lingered. It followed him as he checked fences, perched atop the canyon ridge, and sometimes crouched beside the barn as if standing guard. That's when Elias noticed changes. The syrup had done more than ease its sickness. The dragon began showing signs of intelligence beyond what was recorded in colonial data files. It mimicked sounds he made, clumsy at first, but improving daily. When Elias coughed one morning, the dragon tried to imitate him, producing a guttural bark that sent chickens scattering. Don't mock me, Elias chuckled, but it wasn't just mimicry. The dragon learned to understand. Elias realized it when he said stay during a dangerous repair on the wind turbine, and the dragon stayed, cocking its head with eerie comprehension. Days stretched into weeks. Their bond deepened. Elias began calling it Stormclaw after the night they met. Yet not everyone welcomed the creature. Colonists from Dunewater came riding up on rugged crawlers, rifles in hand. Carver, their leader, a hard-faced man named Greeley, spat. "You got a dragon squatting here? You're insane. Those things bring nothing but trouble. They hunt livestock, wreck power lines. The council will want to put down." Elias stood firm. "It's not a threat. Saved his life during the storm. It owes me nothing, but it stays close. Smarter than you give it credit for." Greeley's men muttered uneasily. "Smart or not, the council won't tolerate it. You'd better drive it off before they send in enforcers." But Elias couldn't. Stormclaw wasn't just an animal anymore. It was the companion. And then came the incident that proved how dangerous things were becoming. A raiding band of off-world scavengers attacked Dunewater, looking for salvage and prisoners. The colonists scrambled to defend themselves. Elias rushed toward town, rifle ready, only to see Stormclaw descend from the sky like a thunderbolt. The dragon's roar scattered the raiders. With precise, terrifying grace, it pinned their crawler trucks, ripped weapons away, and herded the attackers until they fled. Not a single colonist was harmed. The townsfolk were left speechless. "He saved us," a boy whispered, eyes wide. But the council was less forgiving. They summoned Elias. Inside their dusty meeting hall, he stood alone while officials glared down. "This dragon is unnatural in its loyalty," one woman said. "What did you do to it?" "Nothing," Elias replied. "Just gave it medicine. Treated it like I'd treat any sick creature. The rest it chose." They exchanged wary looks. "Then it's worse than we thought. If humans can influence them, who knows what danger that poses? You'll bring the wrath of the species upon us." Elias clenched his fists. "Or maybe you'll earn their trust. Ever think of that?" The council wasn't convinced. They gave him an ultimatum. Drive Stormclaw away, or they'd call in planetary enforcers to eliminate it. Ending. Elias returned home with dread, gnawing at him. Stormclaw waited, wings tucked neatly, golden eyes glowing in the starlight. "They don't understand," Elias said softly, stroking its scales. "They think you're a threat. They don't see what I see." Stormclaw tilted its head, then, astonishingly, spoke. A low, gravelly voice formed crude words. "Friend, stay." Elias froze. He hadn't been imagining the intelligence. The syrup, the bond, the weeks of shared trust. It had awakened something deeper. "Stormclaw, you can talk?" The dragon's throat rumbled, struggling. "Ilias, friend." Tears stung Elias's eyes. For years since his wife's death, he'd been hollow. Now, against all odds, an alien dragon had filled that void. But the enforcers would come. He knew it, unless he acted. That night, he saddled his crawler with supplies. "We can't stay here," he told Stormclaw. "They'll hunt you. Maybe hunt me too. But out there, beyond the canyon, there's wild country no council dares touch. You'll be safe." Stormclaw spread its wings, wind rippling across the land. Elias climbed onto its back, heart hammering. He'd flown ships, but never dreamed of this. "Let's go," he whispered. They soared into the night sky, higher and higher until the colony lights dwindled to sparks below. The air rushed past, sharp and cold, but Elias felt alive in a way he hadn't for years. For days they traveled, across deserts of violet sand, through forests where the trees glowed with bioluminescence, over mountains that scraped the clouds. Stormclaw hunted, guarded, and spoke more each day, halting words, but words nonetheless. At last they reached a remote plateau, untouched by humans. Stormclaw landed gracefully, curling its tail around Elias. "This," Elias said, looking out over the horizon, "this is freedom." Stormclaw leaned close, its voice deeper, stronger. Together, Elias smiled, placing a hand against the dragon's warm scales. He realized the storm hadn't just saved the dragon's life. It had saved his. And though the future remained uncertain, one truth was clear. A man and a dragon, bound by trust and an act of kindness, could change the fate of two species. Perhaps one day, others would follow. Perhaps one day, humans and dragons would share the skies as partners. But for now, Elias had all he needed: companionship, purpose, and the endless horizon. The storm had brought him grief before. Now it had brought him hope. And somewhere deep in his heart, he knew this was only the beginning of their story.